All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob for Smirking Gun Reviews, and we are doing The Americans Season 6, Episode 3, Urban Transport Planning. So full spoilers if you have not seen the episode. This deals with pretty much immediately after the events of the last episode where the general and Elizabeth had their little tussle, and the general ended up with his brains and part of his face all over and Paige running up in a panic to see what was happening. And this is where Paige is learning, she's seeing that side of her mother now, not just of the killer, but just the no nonsense, follow the plan, I don't care if you're my daughter situation. As her daughter, Paige goes to that gunshot thinking maybe her mother's dead, danger, they don't really discuss that. They never bring up, like, I was worried about you, but I mean, how do you not hear a gunshot where your mother was and not be afraid? Now, most people would run in the other direction, but I mean, if you're worried about your parent, you go to it. And in this case, this is where Elizabeth's maternal instincts are not there. She's not worried about what her daughter thinks of her being alive or dead, just following the plan. And this is again also where we see the differences that have always been there between Elizabeth and Philip's way of dealing with their children. Philip is the gentle touch, Elizabeth is the hard edge. And again, that also shows one of the great things about this show, which is taking the gender types and flipping them, making him the more maternal figure in the kids' relationship, in the marriage, and her being more of the alpha in things. Her being, the usual, what would go to a male character. And this is also, in this episode, we get a lot of things with Philip where the business is not doing as well as it was, because this is, set in like 1987 right now. That was 31 years ago. So, yeah, 97, yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't hear the words travel agency at all anymore. And so, if you're, even back then, it seems like, his business is not doing well. I don't think travel agencies do that well now, but look, I don't know. I've never taken a trip anywhere, okay, further than like since I was a little kid. Since I was like 12, I haven't been anywhere really. So I don't know how people do. Everything's online now, but back then there was no online. So travel agencies were a thing. But it also kind of looks like there's a kind of a downward turn here for his business, where, the problem with paying for Henry's tuition and, trying to motivate his employees, which, if you've ever been part of like a corporation, any kind of business, it was interesting to see this like pitch, this like little impromptu meeting that he has with his employees. I can't count how many times I've been on the receiving end of one of these kind of meetings where I've had to sit there and listen to my boss, put people on the spot about their job as a group, and expect to have answers like right away. And it's awkward, but it's awkward and real, and just how this happens all the time, every day, still in businesses. And how he just kind of quickly walks off, closes the door. Like, you automatically know that things aren't quite, as an employee, you would get, if you're smart enough, that things aren't going that well. And so, as we see later on, him telling her, like, things are changing overseas and maybe we don't have to, I feel like he's trying to talk about getting to the conversation about his business and not being there that great. One of the other, okay, so we got Stan has a big part to play in this, and this has to do with the guy who is bringing the packages to get x-rayed, that doesn't work out because that guy's wife is talking to this guy named Bogdan, who is like a journalist. And she's like, we trust him. We keep secrets. We're Soviets. And that's just, you say that to an FBI agent, and that is just not good enough. So they have to get it to where, and I love how his partner's kind of like, it could be nothing. This guy could be telling the truth. Kind of like he doesn't want it to be true. So, you've got a good thing going, why mess it up? But they can't. They gotta do something about this. And I do love that point, where they have to get them all separated. Talking about political asylum, they're done. They put a pin in them because she's been talking, and now this guy has to deal with, now Stan's got this guy telling him like, I want to talk to my wife, we don't want to separate and all this other stuff. But it's like, it's the downside of this situation for people that, supposedly want to help the government so that they can get asylum and get, what is it, like your green card, like get your citizenship and all this stuff. If one of you is not on the same page, or one of you is not happy in the marriage or whatever, things can go downhill fast. And Stan's kind of in a spot where there's really not much for him to do. And it's just sad for these people a little bit. Also, we have Stan talking to Laurie Holden's, what I think her name is Renee. I thought this was just hilarious. She's like, maybe I could be an FBI agent. And I feel like he just wanted to go, yes, I'm sure you do. Like, I know she's trying to make a connection, like Philip and Elizabeth's connection, supposedly, if they only knew, but it's just, I don't know. Sometimes you got to let those dreams go. When you're already past 40 and you want to become an FBI agent. Hey, I would love to just be able to walk into Hollywood and say, hey, I've got ideas, give me a job. But it doesn't work like that. Paige and Elizabeth and Claudia having their conversations. Elizabeth really trying to get through to Paige about like what she's done wrong and everything. She says she's okay and everything, but when you see somebody with brains all over their face, I don't know how okay you really can be. Stan going to visit Oleg for the first time in a long time. That was a nice little scene. Him trying to tell him, like, whatever you're up to, just don't do it. And this scene is just really about kind of a reminiscing scene, like, and Stan kind of trying to feel out Oleg for what is he up to. But the main thing about this episode, the main thing I want to get to is just the differences between Philip and Elizabeth now are coming to a head, because she still wants, she's still doing things for a Russia that is on its way out. And she wants Russia to be Russia, and she doesn't want it to be like America, but communism is coming to a close in her country in the way that she knows it. And Philip has been embracing the more American side of everything. And he, is trying to tell her, like, look, man, at some point maybe we'll be able to have Stan over for dinner. We won't have to do this anymore because of what Gorbachev is trying to do. And Elizabeth's having none of this. And he does make a point that, they haven't even talked to anybody in Russia for over 20 years. So what do we really know about what they want anymore? And she tries to throw that back at him, like, well, what do you know? Like, you haven't talked to anybody either. And so it's kind of like, when you've been that out of touch, you're holding on to ideals on both sides. You're reaching for ideals. You're holding on to ideals. What's the right way to do things? When do you know when to let go? When do you know when to, accept other things? Is it too late? Are you too far gone? Are you just too hard-edged to be able to accept a different way of life? And that's just a really interesting thing. And going forward, this is where Philip, puts on a disguise and goes talk to Oleg. So it looks like, Philip's going to have to be on board about trying to stop Elizabeth from her plans. Speaking of Elizabeth's plans, this scene with her as the security consultant reminds me of the episode that just aired of Better Call Saul, where Mike Ehrmantraut sneaks into Madrigal Electromotive. Spoilers for that show. I'm just going to break down a little bit like how he goes in there and does a security check under false pretenses. And that's what we have here, except it's done in just as impressive style. She pretends to be this person, and interviewing people, telling them this is a standard thing, and all the non-disclosure stuff, making it try to seem normal, that you can't talk to anyone about this. And then, this guy giving it all up because he's naive enough to think that, well, why would anybody lie about this? Why would anybody pretend to be that which is not? And she does it so well and so convincingly that this is all normal, that he just, he lets it all out. Speaking of earlier in the episode when she's spying on the negotiator, that she also has an alternate disguise, a personality for trying to get information from him. She has just got her hands in everything. And I really felt bad though for that poor guy that she kills at the end. And this is, when you see scenes like this, where it's not like she's trying to defend herself against this general who could expose them or was going to kill her. This is just a guy caught in the middle of their shit. And this is where the sympathy dies out for people like Elizabeth, where there has to be some measure of justice for what they've done. Maybe there won't be. I don't know how this show is going to end because it is over, but I avoided all spoilers somehow. But when you see scenes like this where they just kill some innocent guy for, to get into a secure location, that this poor guy, his break was just knowing, the right information that they needed. And it's pretty upsetting. And even though it bothers Philip and Elizabeth, the two, to do things like this, it bothers Philip more, and Elizabeth just kind of considers it all collateral damage. And even though it does hit her still, it just doesn't do enough to stop. So that's about it for this episode. Just a lot of story going on. I mean, yes, the death at the end is like a big thing, but anyway, it takes a lot out of you watching these shows, especially shows like The Americans. It's so dense and so real that you kind of feel like you're watching like a bit of history, just fictionalized a little bit. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Again, we've hit 200 plus subscribers now, so that's great. I want to thank everybody that watches these videos. Please let me know what I could be doing better. If you have any tips, let me know what you think of this season. If you've already seen it, please don't spoil anything for me. I try to be real careful when I watch shows like this that have already aired, to be real careful when I read the comments. So anyway, this is Rob for Smirking Gun Review saying we'll see you on the next video. We've got stuff for The Expanse, Preacher, possibly Sharp Objects, and Ozark, and The Man in the High Castle, and who knows what else. So anyway, we will see you on the next video. Have a great day. Bye.